Yeah, but
Yes, here's Phyllis. Hi, everybody. נעשה share screen. לא חשוב. Oh, it's recording, you can start.
Okay,
אני לעשות share screen של
כן, כדאי.
אוקיי. שלחתי במייל או בזה?
אני יכולה לשלוח למישהו בוואטסאפ.
לא, תשלחי לי במייל. במייל. הנה, לא צריך.
ואני לא... לא, but you can send your friends in the WhatsApp?
לא, יש להם את הקישור את הקישור.
אוקיי. All right. So, נתחיל? רגע,
אני אעשה של ספין. בבקשה. שיהיה PDF, לא נורא, שיהיה... בדרך כלל PDF אני אוהבת לעשות את זה.
Tova said to me, she goes, Mommy, I don't feel Shabbos. And it bothers her so much. My daughter's on days. And she's a combatant, so she's like literally on the phone, on the computer. This is her job.
Okay.
She's like, don't feel Shabbos. And I'm sitting there.
So I
see
so
the
it's
time of the Shabbat, and I'm like,
yeah, okay.
Oh no, she's not listening now. She's doing something.
No, but
Okay,
it's something that we all asked ourselves on Simchat Torah itself.
Right, exactly.
So then in Bet Hillel we wrote a paper about it, and that I made this.
My daughter was in Putzman. Putzman Shabbat was over when she was in here.
Yeah. Oh, she was
So yeah, she wasn't on the west.
זה צריך לסגור. אם יש לך את זה, ואת יכולה להתחיל. אוקיי? go on.
And I don't see anyone. Is that okay? Do you see me?
From no, like my aunt, she goes, she knows when it's Shabbat, I won't answer.
There you go.
And I did because she's 80 years old and I knew she was having a freak attack. And I thought, if I don't answer, she's going to have an attack.
זה הדף מקורות, אבל אני לא רואה, אנחנו בזום.
She waited for it to be over Shabbos here. She was very careful. She knew I wouldn't answer on Shabbos.
אני לא מבינה. אני לא רואה שאנחנו בזום פה.
No, you're on the screen share. Oh, no, I don't know. I don't know how to do that, guys. Does anyone know how to check?
Okay. So
Yeah,
this stop share.
If you stop share, you'll see you're on Zoom. And if you share, then you'll see that it is.
Okay, so we'll start. We're already recording. I'll just hi everyone. Today we'll talk a little about milchama b'halakha. This was supposed to be cutting-edge contemporary halachic discussions. No, this is cutting edge. This is contemporary. So originally, the plan was to deal with different issues that come up today because of the mood of our world that is the postmodern, everything to do with total equality between all types of I don't know, genders, whatever you want to call that. Also in the national arena, there was also one part of it. Because of this postmodern mood, we're also ethically challenged when we say, okay, we want to put a border around our nation and keep everyone else out. That doesn't go well. So all these things were part of the plan to deal with halachically, a lot of women's issues and other things that come up today. So milchama came up today, and I think it should be relevant. Another note that I want to put out there, some people, women, men, children, when they come to Torah classes, they feel they want chizuk. So you have to talk about the war or whatever's happening now, like last week. Some people come to these classes, and I have students. I run an international halakha program for all Torah. And whenever we say something, last week I had one woman saying, please stop. I came here to learn Torah. And then this week it happened again. We had some long introduction, and someone was upset because we prepared all these sources, and we wanna do our limud Torah. So why am I saying it? Because here we're studying halakha, and it might. I hope that you would get the feeling that it's relevant to what we need to think about today in terms of what am I going to do. But on the other hand, it's limud Torah, and we're a little detached and removed from the reality itself, the day-to-day reality, although questions come up. So that was the introduction, and now we can go ahead again and share the source sheet. Okay, so there are two different topics that come together when we talk about milchama b'Shabbat. One is specifically what goes on in battlefield, doing war. But the other thing that came up, again, it comes up on Shabbat, and you mentioned it, and so you in your question, your daughter's question, it was a question of the battlefield supposedly, but it also expresses what we go through in the עורף. איך אומרים עורף באנגלית? What's the word that is used for חזית? The home front. And in the home front, we have to work out the halakha category that we want to talk about in order to put the home front in the context of war. So the home front, first of all, if the home front is attacked, as like I remember this sisma when I was younger, כל הארץ מלחמה וכל העורף חזית, כל הארץ חזית. We're all in the home front when it comes to the type of situation that we are in. But again, some of us, for instance, I live in Yerushalayim, we feel a little more removed, although I live now in Abu Tor, which is considered a border neighborhood. And I just moved from Katamon, so I asked myself, it was so much safe feeling in Katamon, but this is what it is. So we have less sirens. Here you don't have any. But on the other hand, you're closer to hostile population, and now we understand even better what that means. So yes, so in a sense we are all that, but in another sense we have the fighters that have their missions, and as the home front we have to be strong in order for them to be able to do their job and have a clear mind for it. And also we need to have our high morale, and there's a relationship here. They need to understand that we're supporting them, whatever they do, that we stand behind them. And like I said before, that we're strong, so they don't have to worry about that when they worry about their missions. And in this sense, we have to talk about Yishuv Hada'at. So the first topic is Pikuach Nefesh v'Yishuv Hada'at. So I'm debating all the time if I should put this after the category of Milchama b'Shabbat or before, but I think we should put this on the table. Now, Yishuv Hada'at, okay, Yishuv Hada'at is a kind of tranquility of mind, a base peace of mind, right? But it's the basic state of mind that you need in order to function, and that distinguishes that state of a person who's healthy and the state of a person who's not in emotional or mental health.
So
and
you're
it's
putting
distress.
Yishuv Hada'at is the same kind of concept as Pikuach Nefesh.
no,
in terms of like on the level where it is?
we are going to look into that. That's exactly the question.
Okay.
Now it came up, it comes up lately, finally, Baruch Hashem, that it's addressed now, because there's more and more halachic work to do with our communities dealing with mental health challenges. For many years, it was something that you don't want to talk about, that you're ashamed of, and in the past few years, again, thanks to some kind of mood of the postmodern world, so it's not it has its own, it has different sides to it. We see more halachic discussion about different questions that come up, and that is the question: mental health, when it comes to Chazal and poskim and halakha dealing with pikuach nefesh goes immediately to saving the body, to diseases that have to do with the body, and what can be the short-term the short-term outcome of not addressing the body needs, and what could be the long-term outcomes. Now, Yeshuva dat, it's not that Chazal are disregarding it, but it's not enough of a category that it's easy to distinguish what's pikuach nefesh and what is not. So when it comes to physical health, Halakha makes a very clear distinction between chole sheyesh bo sakana, chole she'ein bo sakana, and michush be'alma. Chole sheyesh bo sakana, that's pikuach nefesh. We do everything for chole sheyesh bo sakana, including, and of course, isurim deoraita. You need to do something, you do it. Chole she'ein bo sakana, we have kind of middle category here, and there is a machloket what we're allowed to do, and the reigning psika is if you can get a goy to do something for you, better do it. And there are also subcategories, and what exactly does it mean? What happens if only one sakanat eivar, one of your limbs, like a finger, a whole arm, it doesn't threaten your life, but a person who remains without a hand might in the end come to a life-threatening situation, an eye. So there's a machloket there, and I have to say that today most poskim, a child breaks a foot, a bone, you take them to the hospital. So there is a little change here, but I have to say that mostly the mainstream is when chole she'en bo sakana, everything that is derabanan, then that's okay to override, but do whatever you need to do derabanan, and deoraita no. The thing is that it's possible to turn deoraita to derabanan in certain cases. So for instance, goy turns deoraita to rabbanan. According to Ramban, shinui turns deoraita to the rabbanan. So if I decided to drive my husband to the hospital because he was in impassable pain, okay, I turned on and I knew that it would take too much time, and I was thinking ambulance, non-ambulance, and I decided no, that in the circumstances will it work. So I kind of tried to turn on the car ignition with my left hand, whatever. So that takes down a deoraita to the rabbanan, and we have to say that in a lot, because today's Chilul Shabbat is mostly has to do, and all our life has to do with electricity and screens. Then according to according to a mainstream of poskim, that's the Rabbanan to begin with, except the old type of light bulbs that mamash, right?
Yeah.
What I,
Edison
you can't
type.
buy them anymore. Oh.
Okay, because you really,
The regular light bulbs.
because in Hebrew they're called menorot lahat. So what is the lahat? The lahat is you're actually putting on fire the metal, right? And that's considered, if even for those poskim who think that electricity in itself, זה לא בונה, it's not exactly creating a circle, a circuit, it's just like turning a faucet on and off, right? What are you doing? You're just opening and closing it, right? So for them, minorat lahat is something you need to avoid. So today, if I open my refrigerator, I turn on my
Screen?
screen.
Screen's already on and you just.
It's already on. You tap it if you want to be sure. You tap it with. So that's mostly the Rabbanan. Just one more thing about chole she'en lo sakana. One of the work that Halakha had to do in the last epidemic during COVID was to say COVID, at least until the very last stages a year ago, or even now, that's chole sheyesh bo sakana, because we didn't know, and because many people had long COVID, and at least in the beginning, because our bodies didn't recognize that, and we had no immunity, we had nothing in our immunity system that recognized it. There was that reaction when people got already better in their breathing, and suddenly it's called a toxic shock, whatever. Suddenly the immune system reacted, and a person went into shock, and a lot of the deaths were because of that. So we don't know when that will happen and to whom that will happen, and therefore the chole sheyesh lo sakana.
What's happened today? It's also for the potential. They gave so many hitalim now for soldiers to come back on the planes and stuff, and it wasn't an immediate threat of death for them.
Okay. So that's why we're doing this. That's exactly what we're doing. So Yeshuva Dat, I want to show. What we'll do is now.
You said there was a third category. You had chole she'en lo sakana.
Chole sheyesh lo sakana and michush be'alma. You have a headache. You just especially taking medicine, which is considered problematic. I don't want to go into that. Maybe that would be one of our shiurim, taking medicine for a headache. Okay, so you have to ask yourself, what am I going to not be able to function at all? Or is it just, I have a headache, I can function. It would be nicer to take a Tylenol, but I can skip it.
Does a cold fall into that? Because the
Uh,
headache is
but
just
why?
not even a
What's
cold.
the problem with taking a Tylenol?
I don't want to go into that. That's
What?
sure. That's a different shiur, okay? It's a questionable geder halachati, because we don't have that today, but and that's why today it's more lenient about the Tylenol and about
It
the
helps
headache.
with grinding and making medications.
Right. Okay, so
Yes.
But that's how they used
it's one of the melachot asurot. It's one of the melachot asurot considered. Okay, anyway, but here's the consideration that you have to ask yourself. What's going to be in your Shabbat if you have little kids, and it's really going to be hard for you, to deal the whole Shabbat with your kids with a headache, then take your medication. That would, so michush be'alma is the lightest case. But usually what Halakha always asks is today and in general is the chole she'en bo sakana category, because you're really sick and you don't necessarily know where it's going to lead. On the other hand, you have a bad cold, maybe a little fever. We know it's not.
Isn't that the second category?
That I'm talking about the second category. Usually that's the category that we're busy with halachically. That's when the questions come up. Oh, that exactly. Okay, so Yeshuva Dat. Now Yeshuva Dat. Okay, we said peace of mind. Give me the possibility in which יישוב הדת becomes חולה שיש בו סכנה.
Well, that's what I was talking about beforehand when it came to Shabbat.
Okay,
And I have relatives in the States who are not Datim.
okay.
It's my aunt, she's 80 years old. She knows she never calls me on Shabbat. She never calls me when she knows it's a 2-day chag. Like in America, she knows I'm not going to answer the phone
Okay.
because I know that she's supposed to be keeping it. And that Saturday night, she waited literally. She knew Shabbos was over here and she called me.
Okay.
And the question is, do I answer the phone or not?
Okay.
And in my mind, I said, I will not do this to her. She will be sitting there suffering. I mean, till this day, she calls me crying every day and because of the news. And if I didn't answer the phone, she would have thought I was dead. She would have gone. I don't know what would have happened to her.
And you think she might have had a heart attack because of that?
Yes.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. So you think someone from the fear,
Stress.
the stress, might drop dead? Another possibility.
It's not her doing the.
No, she picked up the phone, and picking up the phone is a derabanan shel derabanan. Okay.
Not about.
No, but for her. Okay, so
Yes.
לא, זה יש, no, but it's for you, נכון, יש,
For me, it's less of an issue.
it's מעשה שבת, yeah, that's a different, it's a good question.
Action.
Right. So yes,
She had left me a message and said, call me right after Shabbos, I would have called her too.
okay, so
And that would have been making her
okay, so what we have here in your story, but that she called and you asked yourself to pick up, that's what we have, what we call יש כמה סניפים להקל. It's only מעשה שבת, and also if in your mind and in your שיקול הדעת, okay, your הערכה, what's the word?
Assessment.
Your assessment, she can really die from it, that's פיקוח נפש, no question asked. Okay. She could die. Okay, we're talking about mental health. Suicide. If you know that a person is suicidal and you know that situation brings about stress and you see that stress building up, that's pikuach nefesh. Or someone who becomes really angry and or and he can kill someone else, whatever. Those are the kind of pikuach nefesh. Now, but what do you do if a person is not suicidal? You don't have any reason to think that they are going to have a heart attack and die, and but you see a terrible amount of stress. Maybe there is a tendency for not even clinical depression, but some moods. Maybe you're afraid of clinical depression. Right.
Please right now.
You don't know. It's a fact, but it could be. Or you don't know to assess the amount, the size of the trauma here. Trauma can now that is not that you don't know about, that it could grow to something else. Just a kind of distress. You don't know what these things lead to. Now the question is that חולה שיש בו סכנה, חולה שאין בו סכנה? Now this is the work that I'm talking about that's being done in the past few years to ask ourselves what we can do. I have a friend who's been diagnosed with borderline personality. She's on medication for years. She's in and out of wards, and she learned halakha, and she wrote halachic opinion that went into Asia, which is a very important medical halachic journal. And she claims that there should be, for that kind of cases, if she wants to play music on Shabbat, right, which is mamash deoraita, there should be across the border a blanket heter to do that. That's her claim. She
based on her halacha research.
Her halachic research, precedents of shelot utshuvot of different rabbis. Now, but not everyone agrees with her, and she is told all the time, "Come to me. I'm the rabbi. Call me even because that's the Rabbanan, and you have that special telephone of Tzomet or whatever she knows how to do a the Rabbanan, and I'm here. Come to me. Call me." And I'll give you the heter specifically because I'll see your state of mind, but I don't want to give a blanket heter. She thinks that can cause problems in the future, and she argues against it. It's a legitimate halachic opinion, but not everyone agrees with that. The person who does tremendous job in halakha is Rav Yoni Rosenzweig. He wrote, a book came out a year and a half ago, Nafshi B'She'elati, and a lot of the material about Yishuv Nefesh is in his book. And he also started center for halachic work on mental health issues, and he gets a lot of questions. And in general, today he's the address. No, he's a rabbi. He wrote the book with a psychiatrist, and he also researched the whole issue after a few good years of doing research, of getting questions, and he put on Facebook that he's writing a book, so people keep on asking him, and he went to all the Gdolei Hador, Charedim, everyone. He went to everyone to ask questions that he didn't have a right answer. So that's doing a lot of work. So that's being addressed. Now, one of the things that he finds, and that's important for your daughter's question, you want to be mekel, right? You want to accommodate a person that's in distress, but sometimes the answer to accommodate them is not necessarily the heter. Sometimes the Shabbat atmosphere or dafka observing halakha is what gives them the security and the strength. So the rabbi here has to understand who he's talking to and what the interest is here. For instance, I had a question now for a second time, a second year in a row, about Pesach, a girl that has celiac, and she's also, she's not clinically considered eating disorder, but she has trouble with that. And comes Pesach, there's always issues. It's Ashkenazi family. For instance, if we make rice only for her, she won't feel comfortable. She won't eat it. She wants to be part of us. What do we do? So we all eat rice. That's the answer. That is the answer.
Rosh Hashanah, thank you so much.
Now, okay, but this is easy because kitniyot is not even considered the Rabbanan for everyone. But what about serious chametz? And now they bought her a dog, and the dog. Here's the example. They bought her a dog. The dog, it's a kind of very loved dog, and he won't eat.
May I say something about the rice?
Will kill him. The food that they have specifically for Pesach.
Am I muted?
It's very bad. The dog cannot use it. So what do?
I guess
we
I'm
can't
muted,
have chametz in the house, right? That's the oraita.
Give them real food.
So I asked this rabbi and that rabbi. We worked out a solution, but in this case, you see that the family and the little girl need to know that they're doing the halakha. It's not for them such a good solution to say, okay, give it up. Okay, so that's Yishuv Hadat. Those are the questions that we're asking, and that's what someone who's asked needs to consider. If the issue is Yishuv Hadat, your mental peace of mind, then I need to know what makes you feel at peace, right? So that's why, for instance, Rav Yoni Rosenzweig would say to that friend of mine, he said, but we need to tailor it. We can't give a blanket psika lehakel, because sometimes it'll be the wrong thing to do for our objective. Okay. Now, where does all this come from in the Talmud?
Is that okay with everybody?
What?
If I put on the AC?
Yeah, now, yeah, I can. Yeah.
Cold. And then we'll turn it off.
I living in Yerushalayim, even though the days are very warm, because it's cool at night, I'm still in a with a sweater and socks in the house.
Well, most of the high for this week are like the low 30s.
Right. But then But then unless I go walking outside between 11 and 3, I'm still in a very cool, so I had to act, but I had to change my clothes. I moved to the fall part of my wardrobe. Yeah, anyway. Okay, so first of all, where do we learn pikuach nefesh? Don't look at the page. V'chai b'hem. Okay. Now, actually, there's a debate between Tanaim and then Amoraim. Where do we learn that? And it's not our topic. Now I understand that I have to teach that topic in one of the next classes. Okay, that's what I understand. So that's because the debate there between the rabbis is a very nice story, and you learn a lot from it. Also later for Psikat Halakha, but the conclusion is in the level of the Amoraim. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Shmuel. I havai hatam. That's our first source. I havai hatam. If I was there in the discussion. Hava amina didi adif midideu. No, my explanation is better than all your suggestions. And what is it? V'chai b'hem v'lo sheyamut b'hem. Okay? Because the mitzvot nitnu in order for us to live by. And if observing Shabbat causes us to die or be very sick that we can't observe mitzvot, then what did we do? And that's because of the way the Gemara there is built. That's considered the conclusion. But there's one more very strong suggestion is that chalel alav Shabbat achat kedei sheishmor Shabbatot harbe. Okay, so it's connected but not connected because sometimes it changes the psika. If a person, I'll do chilul Shabbat for this person, if I know that my saving his life will allow him to observe a lot of Shabbatot. In what cases does this? What if you help someone who's not Shomer Shabbat? Okay, other examples. Someone that you know is going to die within the 24 hours. Do you save or not?
Yes, you don't know that. You're not God.
You're not God, but everything shows that, yes. Okay, you're in the hospital, the saturation begins to fall.
That's true, but sometimes they say somebody's going to die and then they don't.
Yeah. Right. Okay, so, okay, but within hours. So that's.
Yeah.
They don't get to the next day. It won't be a whole week. Okay. Yeah, but okay. So when we're talking
to that their suffering won't be prolonged, like
okay, so that's the other side. Talk about that one day also. So I'm building up here. I'm building up here the yeah. So you keep coming. But then I can say, okay, according to Chalel Lav Shabbat Achat Kedei Shishmor Shabbatot Harbe, it doesn't work, but it does work according to the Chai Baim. Okay, so we do the Chai. So why did I say that? I wanted to show that the reasoning impacts the halakha itself. Okay, the nafkamina of the halakha. Also, if it's a non-Jew and if it's someone who doesn't observe, all those cases are questionable when you use Shabbat Achat, Shabbatot Harbe, etc. Okay, so that's the basic pikuach nefesh. That's why now pikuach nefesh is not ishuv abdat. So now we have to look into where do we come to the idea of yishuv adat from? Where does that come up? And here's the next source. There's a Mishnah. Meyaldin et ha'isha b'Shabbat. Okay, we help a woman give birth, which means a lot of chilul Shabbat. Okay, and that's okay. She can die. The baby can die. Pikuach nefesh, no question. וקוראים לה חכמה ממקום למקום. So a chachama is a midwife. So even if she has to come from Hashmonaim to Yerushalayim, okay, she can come because that's pikuach nefesh. She knows what to do, and we don't have to give examples for that. That's for sure. We need someone who knows what she's doing. ומחללים עליה את השבת. Now, we already said מילדים את האישה, so why do we need מחללים עליה את השבת? What does that add to our discussion? So then the Gemara deals with that. מחללים את השבת לעטויה מאי. What are we adding here? What are we bringing? לעטויה is to bring. What are we bringing into the conversation? לעטויה ha-detanur Rabbanan. Oh, this is in order to bring into the conversation a braita that we know about. What's this braita saying? Tanur Rabbanan is always an opening for a braita, which is Tanaitic Halakha that did not go into the Mishnah. Okay, so if it's in the Mishnah, the Gemara says matnitin or tnan. But if it wants to bring a source that we know because we're learners and we learn by heart all the Tanaitic material that goes around. So now I'll quote you a halakha, a Tanaitic halakha, Tanaitic up to Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, up to the time that the Mishnah was written. That's called the Tanaim. So a Tanaitic source that shows us that we have to say mechalelim alea et Shabbat in addition to saying that we meyaldim ota b'Shabbat, that we help her have the baby. Now, what's this source? Im hayta tzricha lener, haverta madleket la et haner. If she says, I want a candle here, her friend strikes the match, which is lehavir, which is a deoraita, and lights the candle. So what do you think? What does this add to meyaldim ota, or it's within meyaldim ota?
Well, it's not necessary for her to give birth to have
Well,
light.
You don't know.
No, it's not. The doctor's not asking for the light. The woman who's giving birth is asking for the light.
She's worried maybe that the doctor.
So whatever it is. No, but the point is that it's not needed for giving
frame
birth.
to give
She
birth.
needs it.
The
The
woman
woman
can't
needs it.
class, can't be at peace.
But that's the
Then
whole point.
you
She needs
can't give
it.
birth.
That's the whole point.
So what's the time? To what point?
That's another question. That's another question which is in halakha. There's a machloket when it starts. Okay, once she's bleeding or when she's we know that the womb is opening. There is a machloket when it starts, and when it stops. I didn't see a after birth. So all these are details that are considered. Okay, what's exactly the length
The
of time?
afterbirth is part of the birth.
The afterbirth is part of the birth, and the questions that I remember are you allowed to, I don't know, do things to the baby in order to set his limbs together?
No. What does that mean?
אני לא יודעת, but apparently they had this situation when they thought that if they don't wrap the baby inside a thing, then his limbs will be all over the place. And that's the question. If the baby don't laugh. That's very that's the medicine of the time.
But not only that, that's also the peace of mind of the mother. If she doesn't think her son or her child is gonna be
Okay. So no, what I'm saying is you asked about the length of time. I'm not sure what it is, but that's a question to deal with. Okay. So what you said here is important. What is important also to understand from this braita, from this Tanur Rabbanan, is that we're probably not talking, and you said it in a way, we're probably not talking about this woman giving birth in the dead of the night, and we need light to see what's going on, because that we understand is pikuach nefesh. We're talking about a different situation. Okay, so what's the different situation that the Gemara comes up with? אמר מר אם הייתה צריכה לנר חברתה מדלקת לה את הנר, that's a quote. Shita. Shita, he says. Why do you have to say that? Lo, tzricha. Okay, that pshita lo. Tzricha means that's not so pashut. Or I'll tell you in what situation this comes up. What's the situation when it comes up? And why do we need to say that? If we said that it's not a pikuach nefesh, if it's a pikuach nefesh, it's pshita. So we don't have to say, turn the light on when you have a birth in the middle of the night. It says, imi vevakeshet chaverta madlika. So why do we need it? Besuma. We need it for a blind woman. A blind woman. Sorry. What? Why is it a blind? Why a blind? Not a blind. Okay, a blind yoledet. Okay, that's how I get out of my woman problem. So why is a blind woman yoledet like in between case, a borderline case? She doesn't know if the doctor has light or doesn't have light, and she can't see, so she can't help. Maybe a woman is supposed to be able to see something in order to help or in order to function during birth. Okay, but she's not aware. That's that answer, more or less. She's supposedly not aware of that issue. Maudetema, what would you say to think that you don't need the candle? Since she doesn't see, it doesn't make of it. So if she says to her friend, please turn on the put up the candle, her friend can say, can ignore her, or she can say, yes, I lit the candle and didn't, but the Baraita says madleket la. Okay, so yeah, you don't play around with her. Light the candle. Malan. It comes to teach us ituvi mitvadata. Svara iika midei chazia chaverta ve'avdali. She thinks that she needs to know that there's light. And she needs to know, and that's why we wrote this halakha. She needs to know that when she asks and she's told that the candle is lit, because that's the halakha. And that's why we need to say that. And because Yeshuva dat, that's why we need to say that, because we need her to come to the birth, and you explained it nicely, or whoever did it, that a woman in stress the stress can be damaging to her life, to the baby's life. We need a kind of peace of mind. So this ituvei mitvadata, that's why we call it Yeshuva, because that's the expression used by Chazal. We want da'at meyushevet, settled mind. That's the translation.
Translation of the Hebrew. Ituvei. What does that mean?
The taf and the shin are exchanged in Hebrew and Aramaic. So the ishuvei, yeshuv hada.
Translate.
Into English, settled your mind. Okay, now in Aramaic, many times they do a double take. Ituvei mitva. So it's the same word, but it says in different way.
Settled.
Yeah, something like that. Question exactly how to translate the doubleness here, but she needs to have a settled mind, and therefore we're telling. Yeah, that's the expression that we use in English. You ask for the exact translation, so it's settled. So that's, she needs to know that if she asks, the friend will do it. So this is one source for the importance of Yeshuva dat in any halachic conversation. The second one, in the end, won't talk about the war today, just about Yeshuva dat, which is fine. We have a whole semester here. Another example for that in the third source, Ra'a shenin'ala delet bifnei tinok shovra umotzio והזריז הרי זה משובח, ואין צריך ליטול רשות מבית דין, ואף על גב דקמיכוון למדבר בשיפי. Okay, translation. You have the situation that a child, tinok in rabbinic language is not necessarily a baby, it's a child, he's been closed, locked in a room. And it happens.
This
Happens, yeah. Shavra, so you can break down the door and take him out. V'hazariz harei ze meshubach. Don't wait. You do it quickly. Okay? Ve'ein tzarich litol reshut mibeit din. Don't go running to your rabbi. Just get that child out of there. Now comes the deoraita piece. Ve'af al gav dekamichaven lemitbar b'shifi. Now, this is another thing in Dinei Shabbat, that every action, if you do it negatively and you don't mean to do something positive, in a lot of the cases, we say patur. Okay, we say that it's not chilul Shabbat deoraita, it's only a derabbanan, or we have this distinction between chayav and patur. Chayav, if we say about something you did on Shabbat, chayav means that if you do it in mezid, it's karet, onesh muchlat shel deoraita, and if you do it in shogeg, you have to bring korban chatat. Okay, today we don't have korban chatat, but we say chayav. Okay, do whatever you want to repent, that's your own business. But it's considered chayav, it's avera deoraita. Patur is that deoraita, it's not so strict, and there are a few ways to understand that. One of the understanding is that, strictly speaking, yes, you did something that you're not supposed to do, but you didn't do it in order to do a positive action that has results that you're planning on. You're doing it just to break down something, and the whole result of this action is destroying. That's, I'm sure you know, כל המקלקלים פטורים. No, it's just you broke something, you destroyed something, there's no positive action. You throw a vase again, okay. Now, you're not supposed to break stuff, or you're not supposed to cause someone bleeding, okay? זה חובל, זה מלמדת אבות מלאכה. You're not allowed to do that. But if you do chovel in order just to destroy, that's not the chovel deoraita. The chovel deoraita is to kill in order to do korban, or to eat, or to use the skin. Okay, those are the example of chovel in animals. So chovel just because of anger or I don't know what, that is a lower level than a deoraita. Okay, so if you break the door, it's mekalkelim pturim. But there is a situation where breaking a door becomes a deoraita, and that is af al gav dekamichaven lemitbar b'shifi. Even though you are planning to use the wood of the broken door in order to heat your house as fuel, even though you're planning to do that and you're going to do that, you're allowed to break the door to save your child.
Is that kind of like a similar reasoning to people when they say you can drive back from the hospital on Shabbos? Because if you didn't give them permission to drive back on Shabbos, and they won't go.
That's another, that's another, and that's here in the Tosefta. Did I bring it in? I tried to make it.
Doing it with thought in mind to use.
No, but even if you have,
right, it's like, if you at that moment, I win, I get to also
even if the thought crosses your mind, you're allowed to do it.
Even if
why
you didn't do that yesterday?
Why if exactly? Good.
You shouldn't prevent yourself from doing what you have to do, where you should do it, if you're also doing something.
And even more so, what this tells us is that you break the door in order to get the child out of there. The breaking the door is a deoraita, and you still do it. We construed the situation as a vera deoraita. In a minute, we construed the situation as a vera deoraita, and we tell you to still do it, which means that your kid can stay there until Motzei Shabbat, and physically you'll probably be okay. And that's the Rishonim say. I didn't go into all that. The Rambam thinks that you're allowed to do a deoraita because he might react like your aunt, because he'll have a shock and die. But a lot of the other Rishonim don't agree with him. They say, no, even if he's really distressed, we don't want a baby or a young child really distressed. You take them out of there. Not a grown-up, but a little child. Okay, you wanted
10 minutes before Shabbat is over, you talk to the kid and get him to wait. So
okay, so that's your assessment. You have to decide how much this kid's is going to be in distress for 10 minutes, but or for an hour. It's a judgment call. But don't go and ask the rabbi. Make the judgment and feel that you can go Malach b'Sharei Gan Eden and said, listen, I did this. That was my judgment call. I'm willing to take the blame. If you think really, Mr. Angel, that there's a problem here, that I'm standing behind my deed.
Because a lot of times you see, especially in the yeshivish world where people have the rebbeim that they listen to, that they don't do anything on their own,
Right.
Even basic things in their homes. They won't do on their own until they ask their rabbi. And here the Gemara is saying there's certain instances when you need to use your own brain.
Exactly.
When you need to say the whole, right now, you do this. You don't need to wait 5 minutes and call the rabbi. Do it now. You
Right.
need to run over to his house. It's very interesting tomorrow.
Yeah.
Does this apply to if you're worried about the child's physical, but also the mental?
Mental. Here it's mental. All the Mefarshim understand this as mental. Yes.
I think if it's physical, there's no question.
So, and the Machmir opinion of the Rambam is that because you're afraid he'll die of shock. But that's the Machmir. All the rest of the Rishonim say, no, he doesn't need to die. He will just sit there for an hour, 10 minutes, 5 hours in distress. No good for a young child.
You have to see how the child inside that room is reacting.
It's hard to tell.
I would also
think
say,
so.
what if an adult suffers from, say, claustrophobia or some kind of issue
So I
about being
right.
locked? Think about being.
Okay.
People go into an MRI. Okay, they have to take Halakha because they're
So that's why that's the distinction. You need the blanket heter for the children. Don't start thinking it too much, okay? When it's an adult, if you know it's someone who's, no, don't break the door. Especially if you're going to use that door. But if it's someone who's claustrophobic, who's crying inside, who's giving you signs that there's distress or quiet, you don't know what's going on, you're feeling too nervous, then again, use your judgment. Okay? But with the child, don't. Okay. Good question. That helps make it more accurate. Okay. Now, Chaye Adam, I wrote here, Rabbi Avraham Danzig is this 18th, 19th century, is a very important, he reacts to the Shulchan Aruch, Danzig, Polish, so Ashkenazi Psika, and he just gives us these categories. Chole shechala kol gufo. I probably should have read it in the beginning because it gives us the distinction. חולה שחלה כל גופו, או שיש לו כאב גדול, ומצטער על ידי זה כל גופו. Okay, now I can translate it, but every expression here is really given to interpretation. כל גופו, the whole body. What does it mean, the whole body? Okay, if I have a great stomach ache, it's like you experience it like a whole body, right? If it's my finger, it's maybe less. מותר לעשות לו כל רפואות, על ידי נוכרי, ואפילו דברים שיש בהם מלאכה דאורייתא. So this is the חולה שאין לו סכנה, but he's really sick. Then the נוכרי can do melachot deoraita, and because he's not Jewish, then it brings down the level of the halakha to a kind of derabanan. It's called shvut. ומותר לעשות על ידי נוכרי כל מלאכות דאורייתא, ופשיטא, who asked about the medication, שמותר לו לשתות כל מיני רפואות. Okay, you can give the חולה שיש בו סכנה, אין בו סכנה, כל מיני רפואות, ובלבד שיעשה על ידי נוכרי. And here probably we have that nochri that grinding the medicine. By the way, today we have medicines that are already in pills that are ground for, my father, both my parents, the caretakers ground the medicine. Okay, so they do that on Shabbat. ולעשות ישראל דבר שאינו מדרבנן אלא מדרבנן יש מתירים. Okay, we know that there's some poskim that say that you're allowed to do melachot midirabanan. אבל דעת רוב הפוסקים דאסור, אלא יעשנו על ידי שינוי. This is what I said, Rabban says. ואם אי אפשר על ידי שינוי ולא על ידי נוכרי, מותר לעשות כדרכו, כן נראה לי. This חיי אדם that is not the most well-known, I don't know, among lay people, halachis, is the source for the leniency in Yishuv Adat. Because he says, and that's why he's brought here, because other poskim don't use this leniency. As you say, יש מתירים, רוב הפוסקים דאסור. But then he goes further and say, okay, you don't have a goy handy, you can't do this על ידי שינוי, you don't even know what that means, then מותר לעשות בדרכו, כן נראה לי. Okay, that's my opinion. And he's an important authority, so we can say, סומכים על חיי אדם. And then when I come to this problem of Yishuv Adat, and I say that this Yishuv Adat is not חולה שיש בו סכנה, but it for sure comes into the category of חולה שאין בו סכנה. It's not חולה שיש בו סכנה, it's not פיקוח נפש, it's חולה שאין בו סכנה. חולה שאין בו סכנה, a person with mental health issues, in a lot of stress, in extreme situations. Okay, I'm not saying that there's a risk to their life, but I'm saying it's like being sick. It's like having a bad cold. Having a bad cold, Chayei Adam says you can do a derabanan. Again, most of what we do today would be derabanan, and that's the hitter. So what you did, בדיוק מה שהיית צריכה לעשות. And you might have next week, if like when we already learned and thought about it a little more, you might have even called her during Shabbat. If you really think, oh my God, she's sitting there and she's okay. Do you have any? Yeah, we have a little time to start with war. Okay. Top line and bottom line. And I had to tell that to my son early this morning because he wrote to me yesterday and it was too late to get an answer. But he writes to me yesterday, it's at 11 o'clock at night. He's in Modi'in. He does mishmarot 12-12. And I don't know what he's doing, but he's doing war work. And he writes to me, הפסדתי באונס שחרית ומנחה, האם אני יכול להשלים שתי תפילות אחרי ערבית instead of just? The answer is no, but I had to write to him something to put him straight, You're working hard, you're doing things. Okay, I know that this guy for the rest of his life will be קצת רגשות אשמה שהוא לא קרבי. So I needed to put him right. So I said, and this is the top and bottom line, war is a category different in and of itself, different from pikuach nefesh, even overriding pikuach nefesh. Okay, and when it overrides pikuach nefesh, I see that there's questions here made. Nachon. Okay, right. Here we go. Sorry, I didn't see that before. I have problem concentrating on both. Okay. Maybe you want to read this last Chaye Adam source. Here. Okay, so it overrides pikuach nefesh, and that goes both ways. In normal circumstances, you're not allowed to put yourself in makom sakana, right? You're not allowed to enter knowingly into a situation where the chances that you are going to be killed are considerable or considerable. Right, high, okay? And there's also some calculations that we won't go into. So it overrides pikuach nefesh. On the other hand, it overrides pikuach nefesh in that you take pikuach nefesh and you widen that category. You put a lot of things into pikuach nefesh that are not normally in pikuach nefesh. Okay, so that's war. So we have to go back to the Yishuv Adat. Why is Yishuv Adat important here? Because in Yishuv Adat during war, then you have a wider variety of things that go into that. Because if you're stressed the whole Shabbat, and next Shabbat, then you, even if you're a very tranquil type of person, we have that sinking feeling. It takes away the energy. We don't want to do anything. We can't concentrate. Our army needs us to be at our best as much as we can. Okay, so that's a widening of this category of pikuach nefesh. So that's the beginning and the end of what we're doing here. Everything else that we managed to do is a bonus, and then we continue next week. Question? No, אמרו לי עד 11:15.
You say to yourself.
What I say to my son, I said to my son, it's a different category. You're doing an important job. No, halachically you can't say the milchama, but you are okay. You're doing good. You're doing what you need. Yeah, and you need to preserve your energies for that. He is.
I thought you said luckily he's not considered the milchama.
No, so I לא יודעת מה אמרתי, אבל לא לזה התכוונתי. You're in the war effort. I also told him, although you are sitting somewhere not on the front, your job is frontline job, and literally it is. So you can't feel bad for missing even the tashlumim of one. Okay. I just want to start with the pasuk or the psukim that serve as the drasha that puts war into a different category. Okay, and that's the pasuk from Dvarim. Because I didn't send her a PDF, then it didn't. So if we wanna use a Tanakh. כי תצור אל עיר ימים רבים להילחם עליה לתופסה. לא תשחית את עצה לקדוח עליו גרזן, כי ממנו תאכל ואותו תכרות כאדם עץ השדה. לבוא מפניך במצור. So this is considered one of, the sources for environmentalists in religion, right? Even though you're engaging in war and you're doing your what's it called, matzor, siege, and you need a lot of wood in order to build whatever you need to build. You can use the wood around you, but not if it's fruit trees, because there's some kind of analogy identification between a human being and a tree. A, you will probably need to eat the fruit, and B, we don't ruin that basic thing that Hashem gave us to sustain us. רק עץ אשר תדע כי לא עץ מאכל הוא אותו תשחית וחרעת ובנית מצור על העיר אשר אשר היא עושה עמך מלחמה עד רידתה. So there's two issues here. One is that it doesn't say that you're engaging in war in order to save yourself. It says here that you're engaging in war because you want to take this city. Why do you want to take the city? You might want to take the city because you want their economic resources. It doesn't say why. So this pasuk is not considered milchemet mitzvah. It's considered milchemet hareshut. Okay? So we see that this whole context is not a context of a milchemet mitzvah. Another thing that will be used, and that's no, maybe we'll read the Talmud.
How you doing, Rita? What's happening?
Yeah, that's why אני מרשה לעצמי להמשיך. What?
I think
Because they end 5 minutes earlier.
yeah.
They end at 11:10.
Oh, you didn't hear me?
Oh.
Oh, there.
Sure.
Oh, the teacher, you couldn't feel.
43, 43 over 20.
We'll finish at 11:10.
They start the next class
Anyway, yalla.
יאללה, רגע.
on the schedule.
תודה, זה טוב.
You got it.
תודה על
Okay.
התודה.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Okay, now the word adrideta, it seems from the context, although it says going down, but it seems from the literally, but it seems from the context that what they mean is that you do the siege on the city until the city falls. Okay, so this means that when we engage in war, how long do we take the war? Until we finish the war, until we win this war. Yeah, right, we should. Okay, now, what does the Gemara say? Tanu Rabbanan, again, that Tanu Rabbanan, okay, it's not in the Mishnah. אין צרים על עיירות של נוכרים פחות משלושה ימים קודם שבת, ואם התחילו אין מפסיקים, וכן היה שמאי אומר, עד רידתה אפילו בשבת. What do we learn from here? If you start a siege, don't start it less than 3 days before Shabbat. Okay? Because we want to, supposedly, we want to end our whatever we do until Shabbat. We don't want to lechalel Shabbat. So 3 days ahead of time. But, אם התחילו אין מפסיקים. You started on Tuesday, it's going to take time. You don't stop on Shabbat. Keep going. Now, where do you learn it from? First of all, it's a halakha that is said in the name of Shammai HaZaken, of Hillel and Shammai. He learns it from the pasuk Adrideta. Why does the Torah here have to tell you continue until you finish? It doesn't add anything to the halakha, to the mitzvah of these psukim. The mitzvah of these psukim tells you not to cut off fruit trees. That's the message here. So why does it have to add adrideta? So Shammai HaZaken learns by midrash that word is here to teach us that we can continue every war until you win. Until you win, then you don't have to stop on Shabbat. Because until you win will probably include Shabbat or Shabbatot. So here we learn that this is the source in the Talmud that we can fight on Shabbat. Lo and behold, you should know, if you turn the page, move it up. We don't have time. We'll talk about it next week. I have here examples from Sefer HaChashmonaim, from Josephus Flavius, that it was not so clear during Beit Sheni that you fight on Shabbat. And there are many a Jewish life has been lost because they didn't fight on Shabbat. So here are actually the examples of the decision to fight on Shabbat, but I didn't bring. Maybe I should take some counter examples to show for next week. But and in the end, the halakha is that we do fight on Shabbat, but it wasn't so clear for everyone all the time. And it's something that Rav Goren, and we'll see that also, had to write a big article about.
And Dafka it's Milchemet Reshut, not Milchemet Mitzvah.
And this is Dafka Milchemet Reshut, and we're considering ourselves Milchemet Mitzvah. But in some of our wars, there for sure, no one will say anything about it being Milchemet Hagana, and that's Milchemet Mitzvah. But it's a category.
Because if you can do it for Milchemet Reshut, then Dafka you can do it for.
Oh, that's for sure. That's for sure. But it's a very good question. It's a very good question.
Shov Siege finishes less than 3 days. I'm guessing. I'm guessing. I don't know.
I don't know. We'll see when we
Well,
continue.
maybe actually to build the siege around the city takes 3 days.
Right.
Like the actual physical.
Okay,
labor.
we'll see in the continuation of this Gemara. We'll see in the continuation. Okay, so here we stop. I hope it's okay that we don't finish up a whole topic every week. You'll see in the continuation of this Gemara this idea of Shabbat, Yericho, 7 days. This whole issue of days is but you're asking a good question. We can bring examples from history that a siege ended quickly. But this is the halakha. Actually, the 3 days before Shabbat, we have other issues that are like don't go in a boat just before Shabbat. So it's a common instruction that might not be here because it doesn't take more than 3 days. But when you plan ahead, when you have time to plan ahead, then make sure you take Shabbat into consideration. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you also, Zoom participants, for being with us, and hopefully we'll see you next week. הגעתי לפה.
Bye, Shoshana.
Bye, Shoshana.
Thank you.
Okay. Works for me.
Bye.
I noticed it wasn't yesterday. See those things.
Okay.
I think we're in the next room.
Oh, really? She wants to be here.
No, because I don't think Tanya's coming. She's gonna. So I'm gonna go home.
Do I have to at least turn off the record? Pause the record.